Hi there, thank you for joining me again. This is Praying Medic, and this is my QAnon video for posts from Q beginning the evening of January 29th, going up to today, Saturday, February 3rd. I just checked Q's page before I did this video, and there are no new posts other than the ones I have in this video, so this will get us caught up to today. When I started this particular thread on Twitter, my theme was shifting the narrative. The Nunez memo is about to be released. Well, this thread now is about 5 days old. The memo has been released, and what I've noticed that Q is focusing on in this particular series is freedom. It is, for Q anyway, this is all about freedom, and you'll see why I say that here in just a minute. So, wanted to do a little bit of review. This is a Q post from January 29, and Q periodically tells us to go back and look at previous messages, look at crumbs, and future proofs past. So we're going to look at this one from the 29th. Narrative shift, nation on alert, firing RR equals block Mueller, firing RR equals setup firing Mueller, firing RR equals red line in the sand. What was the Senate vote, confirmation vote for Rod Rosenstein? Why did Rosenstein beg Ryan to block the FISA memo from congressional further review advancement? All right, and then there's this number of congressional members, senators, former Obama said staff who went and looked at some intelligence information inside of a skiff. The question I wanted to focus on is about firing Rosenstein. Why was Q drawing our attention to the potential firing of Rod Rosenstein? Well, what I see is the setup of a narrative, and we're seeing it now. The mainstream media is apoplectic about this. Now that the memo has come out, we know that Rod Rosenstein signed one of the applications to FISA court to renew the spying on the Trump team. People are now saying that Rosenstein, well, the people on the left are saying that Trump is thinking of firing Rosenstein. And if they fire Rosenstein, that's a way to get at Mueller. And, there's been this narrative that the left has been pushing that they're almost daring Trump to fire Mueller. I think they want him to do that so that they can accuse him of obstruction of justice. There is no way Trump is going to fire Mueller. And this article just came out today. I'm just going to show you this real quick. A Washington Examiner. White House has no plans to fire Rod Rosenstein. There is no discussion with Jeff Sessions in the DOJ about Rosenstein being fired. Actually, the morning that the memo came out, Rosenstein was with Jeff Sessions and Rachel Brand at a conference where they were discussing their plans to break up human trafficking rings. So, and Sessions was speaking very highly of Rosenstein that morning. So there aren't any plans right now to get rid of Rosenstein. So right now, conservatives have this narrative going on that they don't trust Rosenstein. If he signed off on one of the applications to spy on Trump, he's probably, a deep state operative. And there are these people who are on Twitter saying that Rosenstein needs to be fired. So you have one group of people on the right who are saying Rosenstein needs to be fired. You have another group that says, well, if you fire Rosenstein, it's just a setup to go after Mueller, and that's obstruction of justice. So Trump is playing it cool, so is Sessions. They don't have any plans to get rid of Rosenstein. I do not think we should join any of this push to get rid of Rosenstein. We need to follow Trump. We need to follow the president. If the president is pushing a particular issue, we need to support the president in that issue. If the president has expressed confidence in someone, we need to be okay with that. My fallback position on all of this is just trust the president. He knows what he's doing. He has people in places for specific reasons. And until Trump starts pushing to get rid of Rosenstein, I don't think we should be pushing to get rid of Rosenstein. I think that is a bad narrative, and I don't think we want to get involved in that. So, just wanted to clear that up at the beginning of this video. Let's move on. Okay, so Q posted a flag, and, well, It's just a flag. Q is a patriot, and Q does like to post flags from time to time. And this is taking us in the direction of this theme of freedom. So let's go on to the next post. And James Comey tweeted on January 29th this tweet: Special Agent Andrew McCabe stood tall over the last 8 months when small people were trying to tear down an institution we all depend on. He served with distinction for 2 decades. I wish Andy well. I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. America needs you. So Q's next post is not an interpretation of Comey's tweet. So don't mistake this. This is not actually Q interpreting, saying that there's some coded message in Comey's tweet that we have to decode and understand. I don't think that's what Q is saying with this next message. What Q is getting at is there is a message that people involved in this investigation need to know, and what they're saying publicly and what they're saying privately are 2 different things. And this is the private narrative. This is what Q is saying that they're saying to people inside the FBI. So I'm just going to read this. JC tweet translation. Special Agent Andrew McCabe stood tall over the past 8 months, brackets, do not talk, when small people, sheep, were trying to tear down an institution we all depend on, cover. He served with distinction for 2 decades. We own you and your family. I wish Andy well, 187. I also wish continued strength for the rest of the FBI. General threat to others. America needs you. Activate sleeper cells. Q. So my summary is there is a deep state message to Andrew McCabe. If you think you can lessen your sentence by giving up information on us, you are mistaken. We know where you live, and he has a house right down the street from Hillary in Chappaqua, New York. Don't be stupid. 187 is the California Penal Code for homicide. And I think there is a message going out to other agents in the FBI. You are going to be questioned, and you are going to be asked about your involvement or your knowledge of people in the FBI who have been involved in corruption. If you say anything, you may end up dead. So Q is basically letting us know that there is a struggle going on inside the department, in the Bureau. Q's next post has had people scratching their heads for days. And I feel bad for people because it's just the word Apache. It's in all caps. And people have been coming up with all kinds of attempts to decode what this means. I just put some images up here. There's an Apache attack helicopter. There's a motorcycle. There's actually Apache tribe, Native Americans, and Apache servers. So what is Q getting at with Apache? One person thought it was this. Apache equals, and, just put it into a, took the first letter and put a name to each one. So Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder. Okay, interesting thought. Q has not reposted anyone's guesses as to what Apache means. However, Q and Julian Assange have been tracking together on a lot of things. And the morning that Q posted the Apache thing, this was tweeted out by WikiLeaks. U.S. Army shares its vision of freedom, and it is this: Wednesday wisdom. The sound of an Apache equals the sound of freedom, and it's just an image of a Apache attack helicopter. So again, we see the sound of freedom. Okay, WikiLeaks tweets out a picture of a helicopter, and they equate that with the sound of freedom. This is the theme that Q is getting us to focus in on. We are all about freedom. This is freedom in many ways that you do not yet understand. And we'll continue, and I'll show you more. All right, so on January 31st, Q posted in response to an Anon who noted that February 1st is Freedom Day. Again, I believe the theme that Q wants us to focus on is freedom. So The Anon says, "I've posted this so many times. Tomorrow's Freedom Day." Q posted a flag named Freedom, and timing is everything. Tomorrow. Q replies, brackets, so you've got day of days, and then D of D is in brackets. My interpretation of the day of days with the D of D in brackets is Department of Defense. Q obviously has a military background. I believe Q is someone in military intelligence. So I'd like to explain a little bit more about my understanding of Q. A number of people have said that they believe Q is more than one person, that Q is a team of people, and that they're all kind of together and they're synchronized and they're doing, posts, and it's all different people. It's not one person. I don't believe that's true. My personal belief is that Q is actually one person. When you look at the consistency of the posts from the beginning to now, I don't see different personalities. I don't see different sense of humor, different focus on what's important. Yes, the nature of Q's posts have changed since October, but that is because some of the people, the Anons, have asked Q to make things more clear and don't be so cryptic. So Q's posting style has changed, but I don't think that's because Q is more than one person. But I will say this. I think that there is a community of people like Q who are probably mostly military intelligence or contractors. They have intel. They have been instructed to give it to various people. So I do believe there is a group of people like Q, and they're all reaching different people. They're dropping information. So the operation of giving intelligence to average people like us is an operation that involves a lot of people. But my personal belief is that Q is just one of them. All right, moving along. All right, so the next post by Q is a response to one of the Anons who was thrilled by the State of the Union message. Hey, POTUS speech was inspiring. Q responds, timing is everything. Did you miss the most important line of the entire speech? Activation code. So let's ferret this out a little bit. We have a couple of people who guessed at what was the most important line of the speech. I heard a reference to federal employees who commit crimes. Was listening for so many coded messages. Great speech. Love the part about the Capitol Dome. Q just responds with an exclamation mark. Denise and I were listening to the State of the Union message, and we heard a lot of very interesting things that the president said. Some of them were a little bit surprising. Some of them sounded very much like a code or a signal to certain people. I thought it was great. So, and when the president said, federal employees commit crimes, my ears perked up, just like this Anon did. There is another guess here. This person says, I call, and this is a quote, I call on Congress to empower every cabinet secretary with the authority to reward good workers and remove federal employees who undermine the public trust or fail the American people. Is it this? Q throws out about 20 exclamation marks. So Q, I think, is saying, yeah, did you catch that part? So and I caught that too. Having worked in the EMS and fire, I have been in VA hospitals for a better part of 25, 30 years. And I have been pretty disappointed at what I've seen as far as the care that veterans get in VA hospitals. I know that there are good nurses and there are good doctors and there are good CNAs and technicians who work in the VA system. However, I have run into some really bad attitudes and some really poor patient care in the VA system. And I think a lot of it is due to the fact that they're federal employees. And once you become a federal employee, it's very difficult to fire you. It's very difficult to really do anything to increase your effectiveness. There isn't much motivation to provide good patient care. You're not in a competitive environment. Patients don't have the ability to go to another hospital if they don't like the care there. They pretty much have to go to the VA. And that's just a symptom, I think, of the federal employment system, where people get into the federal government as an employee. There isn't always a lot of motivation for them to improve or to excel at what they do. And there is a lot of poor customer service in the government. And the president is calling on Congress to change some laws so that federal workers realize it's not time for you to be on the gravy train. You are servants of the American people. And I think that is kind of what Q is getting at. It's time to change the perception that people in government have about who they are responsible to. So one of the Anons posts about the train accident that happened on the 31st of January, where that was a train full of GOP congressmen who were going down to a retreat, and the train was hit by a garbage truck, or the train hit the garbage truck, depending on how you see that particular accident. So the Anon says, hey, TikTok, Q, was a train incident a false flag today? Q asks, do you believe in coincidences? Expect more. That is a rabbit trail that I do not particularly want to go down. Other people who are doing videos on Q have discussed that ad nauseum. They have looked at the wreckage, they have made their guesses and their assumptions and their conclusions. Q says that it was a false flag. There's probably going to be more. By the way, later on that day, there was a shooting in Detroit. 2 people were shot, or some guy who kind of went crazy and went into 3 or 4 different stores, shot somebody in the head. I think he carjacked another person, went to another store, shot somebody else, ended up crashing the car and being shot by police. He survived, was taken to the hospital. There was another shooting in California that day. That was at a high school. And I think 2 teenagers were hospitalized from that shooting. So there were other incidents that went on that day. Were they all false flags? I don't know. I am not convinced that tracking down and spending a lot of time and energy on figuring out whether these are false flags or not is a good use of time. Some people believe in false flags and some people don't. If you're the type of person who believes in false flags and you tend to attribute these strange incidents to being intentional, you're going to believe that a lot of these are false flags. If you tend not to believe in false flags, you're going to think that a lot of these are just coincidences. My argument isn't going to convince you one way or the other. The only thing we're really asking here is, was this incident a coincidence or was it intentional? If you think it was intentional, then you would say it's a false flag. If you think it was an accident, then it's just a coincidence. All right, I'm going to move on. So one of the Anons brings up the question about President mentioned terrorists and Guantanamo Bay in his State of the Union message. Let's be clear, enemy combatants. Q says, hey, go back and look at those executive orders over the last couple of months. Put them together and see where it's going. And we have information that there are going to be more executive orders coming out. And the president did indicate that, and this is in the State of the Union address, that he authorized General Mattis to review the detention policies for Guantanamo Bay and is going to give him permission to change and modify the policies for detention of enemy combatants. So keep your ear to the ground, because I think you're going to see some more things coming out. These executive orders are being dropped in a sequential order. They're going somewhere. We're going to see more of them. We won't see the entire picture for a while, probably another few weeks, but the picture will become more clear as time goes on. So in this next post, one of the Anons makes a connection between the statue that the president pointed to during his State of the Union message and the fact that Freedom Day was approaching. Now, the Freedom Day was February 1st. Let's look at this post. I'm guessing that Freedom statue and Freedom Day have to do with Q's stringers for freedom. Q says, news unlocks map. So yes, this is all going in the direction of freedom. No coincidence. President was talking about freedom. He pointed to the statue. He said, you know, I think the Hall of Congress is a monument to freedom. Everything in that speech was about freedom. In the next post, Q mentions a helicopter, a crash. It's at Newport Beach. There was a hotel general manager. What happened at those hotels, the hotels that are related to the general manager? This news article was published in the Orange County Register. Helicopter didn't send out a distress signal before fatal Newport Beach crash. The pilot and 2 people on board were killed. So Joseph Anthony Tina, 60, was the pilot. Kimberly Lynn Watsman, 45, of Santa Monica, and Brian Reichelt of Hollywood also died. They were managers and employees at a hotel, the one that Q is referring to. And if you're interested, you can, there's more other news articles about this and the history of these people. So this is one of the Anons posts this. This is taken from one of the news articles. Watsman was the general manager of the Standard Hotel in West Hollywood. She had worked for the company for nearly 11 years. And there's a link to an article. Q responds, what happened at the hotel? AS, in brackets, what is AS attempting right now? Favor repaid, Q. So in this particular exchange, AS is Adam Schiff, the ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee. So I responded to Q's post on Twitter. What is Adam Schiff doing now? He's tweeting. He says the memo that is to be released tomorrow is different from the one that the committee voted on. So I retweeted Adam Schiff. Here's his original tweet. And he was just complaining because he said that the memo was changed, and all they did was they changed a couple of words. They changed some spelling and grammar, nothing big. So I was not correct because I don't post on the chance. So one of the Anons posts back, some incident with Adam Schiff happening at a hotel and was covered up. He is repaying the favor by trying to cover this up. Anons were looking for a death cover-up that Adam Schiff is doing. Q responds, how they control those they need. One recent example, relevant today, learn Q. So Q is basically getting at the idea that, it's politics. Politicians owe people favors. There's oftentimes bribery and blackmail involved. You get involved with sketchy people, and this is the kind of thing that happens. So one of the Anons points out that there is alleged to be a pedophile and human trafficking operation that's being run out of the hotel. I'll just read this to you. Pedo ring, human trafficking at hotel, Adam Schiff's district. He knew. He's trying to cut a deal because he knows he's grass. Q responds, the intel just dropped is bigger than you can imagine. Q. So this Anon hit the nail on the head. Human trafficking and pedophilia. And I just want to say this. Again, for the other people that are doing YouTube videos on Q, they have dug into this thing, the pedophilia, the human trafficking, the strange murders. If you're interested in that, you can go and do some research. That's not why I'm doing this video. I don't really have the time and the ability to go into all that. I'm covering a lot of different subjects right now. When I get done with this video, I'm going to do a video on the House Intel memo. So a lot of other people have covered that. You might want to watch their videos if you're interested in learning more about that. The Anons have dug into that, and there's a lot of very dirty stuff going on. And that's all I'm going to say about it. However, on a personal note, for those of you who have not heard this before, I want to share this with you. So when I first got interested in Q, and this dream was probably a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, I met a man in this dream who reminded me of Q. We sat down and we talked, and he asked me questions, and he cleared up my understandings of events that had happened in the past. Then he began asking me questions about current events. Who is this person? How are they involved in this event? How are these things related? How are these things connected? Expand your thinking. He was talking to me just the way Q talks in his posts. And I thought, wow, throughout the whole dream, I thought, wow, this guy's just like Q. He keeps asking me these questions, right? So at the end of the dream, right before I woke up, he asked me this question. Do you understand that this is primarily about the children? And yes, he looked like Mr. Miyagi. Very much like Mr. Miyagi, actually. Just want to pass this along to you. The reason why I am involved in Q is I am convinced that this is all about the children. This is all about saving people who are being trafficked, whether it's women, young men, young girls. This is what these people are doing. the generals and the military intelligence and the president, all the people who are involved in this, they are doing this primarily because they want to free the captives who are being held prisoner by evil people. It's my belief that all of this is primarily about setting these captives free, and that is why I'm doing this. All right, this is Q's next post, and I'm just going to read this to you. Effective yesterday, while standing under the Statue of Freedom, POTUS freed those good people who are currently being blackmailed, threatened, and enslaved. Those who stood chanting, USA, 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 were freed. The shot heard round the world. TG, with an arrow, we the people, Freedom Day, light Q. Was TG a reference to Trey Gowdy? I don't know. TG keeps coming up in Q's post. I'm not sure if that's Trey Gowdy. It could be. It could be. It looks like the president and Jeff Sessions have a place for Trey Gowdy, that he's not actually going to be retiring. Will he be special counsel? We are going to get a special counsel. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for Trey Gowdy. But, you know, now that they're saying that Rosenstein isn't going anywhere, maybe Trey Gowdy is going to be the special counsel. There is going to be one appointed. That is what the House Judiciary Committee is driving toward. So you've got Bob Goodlatte with the House Judiciary, you've got Chuck Grassley with the Senate Judiciary, and you have the House Intel Committee with Devin Nunes. All three of them are doing parallel investigations, and what they're going to, their end game is to get a second special counsel appointed who will look at corruption and malfeasance inside the Department of Justice and the FBI, and the cover-up of some crimes. And I need to say this. So when you look at the way Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi reacted to the memo before it came out, people, you know, they're making fun of these people, but you have to understand, there's a reason why they were freaking out. And the reason why they're freaking out is not obvious. I did not think they were going to be named in the memo. The memo was pretty much what I expected it was going to be. It was called the FISA Abuse Memo, and the memo was primarily about FISA abuse. The reason why Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and other people were freaking out is the memo implicates agents in the FBI and attorneys in the Department of Justice of corruption. Now, when you have corruption in politics, when you have corrupt congressmen and senators, they are protected by agents in the FBI and attorneys in the Department of Justice and corrupt judges. They have a system that is set up that protects all of them. They can take bribes, blackmail, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering, drugs. We're probably going to find out that there are some pedophile rings in the government. All of this goes on. And as long as you have judges, prosecutors, and FBI agents who are willing to turn a blind eye to that, as Q has often said, blind eye, right? As long as you have people in the system who will turn a blind eye to that, the politicians can be involved in this activity and it's never going to be prosecuted. They don't have to worry. But the memo is the shot heard round the world. The memo is the first few snowflakes of a blizzard that is coming. The memo is the first of many memos that are going to come that are going to root out and expose corruption in the Justice Department, the courts, and the FBI. And once those corrupt people are removed, what happens to the politicians who are guilty? If you remove the corrupt prosecutors, the corrupt FBI agents, the corrupt judges, then the politicians are exposed. No one is going to cover for them anymore. And that is why people in Congress are freaking out about the memo, because they're about to lose their cover. So just wanted to share that. Some observations that I think will help us keep the right frame of mind as we move forward with this. So next, one of the Anons posts a picture of Mike Pence. He's speaking, and he is, I'm just going to read this. Despite the terrible train wreck en route, congressional GOP got to their retreat safely at Greenbrier Resort. Coincidentally, the site is a massive underground bunker, emergency shelter for the U.S. Congress, built during the Cold War, codenamed Project Greek Island. So Q responds at the bottom, coincidence? Marines are on guard. Right, so this was during the train accident. The people in Congress, the Republicans, were on their way to a bunker to be protected in anticipation of the release of the memo. On the way there, they got into an accident. Unfortunately, somebody was killed in the accident, and if you want to pray for that, the family and friends of that person, that would be great. But if it was, as Q says, a false flag, an attempt to maybe derail the train and kill those Republican congressmen, that effort was thwarted. They ended up in a safe place in a bunker surrounded by Marines. And Q is basically saying, look, this was all kind of planned out. In the next post, the Anons are concerned about the president. Q just lets them know president is safe, protected by patriots. This next post is rather long. I'm going to click on it and read it to you. So, reference previous last breadcrumb. Obviously, the train slowed down, so it must have been warned. And then the Anon says, I think it was warned. Helicopter surveillance saw the truck and warned the engineer. I'm guessing the truck was kitty corner between the crossbucks with the back end dumpster lift hydraulics boom facing the oncoming train. Train hits the boom, spins the truck around, and rips the body off the cab of the truck, leaving the cab on the crossing. Train drags the body of the truck down the tracks until the body rolls off down the embankment. Question is, if truck tried to run crossing, why didn't occupants flee the cab while getting stuck unless train hit the truck just as it was trying to run the crossing? So he's just trying to, work this all out in his mind. Have to figure, though, if aerial surveillance sees truck and warns the engineer, the truck had to have been there for a while, so why didn't the occupants flee? If the truck was there as a plant, the only sense I can make of it is that the occupants were patsies, i.e. maybe they were told they were only going to force a train to stop, like it's an Antifa protest. And this is how you set up a false flag. You find some gullible people. You tell them, hey, we're doing a protest. We want you to take your truck and just park it on the tracks. And this train knows you're coming, and they're just going to slow down and stop, and you're just going to be a protester. So the Anon goes on to say, I don't think surveillance would have seen a truck headed toward the crossing and tell the engineer to brake, assuming the truck would stop on the tracks. However, it could be that the access road was closed and any traffic was regarded as a danger. Some people have speculated that that road there had been closed because people in Congress were coming on the train and didn't want to, have a risk of someone trying to hit the train. The key is, how fast does an Amtrak train usually go through there, and how fast was this one going? If this train was slower, then why? So there's all these questions, right? This is Q's response, drone. What does that mean? Does that mean that the drone hit the truck and took the truck out and immobilized it? CIA drone, maybe? Because we know that Q does not really think the CIA plays very well. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm just reporting what Q posts. Next, an Anon posts a link to an article about the co-founder of Hamas who died 3 weeks after he supposedly accidentally shot himself in the face. I'm going to click on this. This image right here is not the guy who shot himself. It was a wrong image. The Daily Caller eventually posted a different one, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Then the Anon says, karma is a bitch. So let me go to Q's response. Q responds, Klaus Eberwein. And let me give you a link to an article here. This is an article from Zero Hedge about Klaus Eberwein, a Haiti official who exposed the Clinton Foundation, who was found dead from what was reported to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. And you can find articles like this on Klaus's death. Q is just suggesting that what if it wasn't a self-inflicted gunshot wound? What if he was actually shot and murdered to shut him up because he knew something about the Clinton Foundation? And that is actually the last of Q's posts. So I'm checking Q's page again. This is the last post. That gets us caught up for this week. And that is all I have for you on Q. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for sharing this with your friends. Thank you for supporting me. I love you all. Take care, and I will catch you on the next broadcast.